Okay, let's get started. So, delivering value for the customer. I'm sure you'll agree that this is said to be a key tenet of lean construction. And it's on the surface a pretty simple and straightforward statement, but I'm saying it's deceptively so. First of all, value is pretty much an ill-defined concept, not really commonly agreed upon what ties into it. And there's the customer part, right? So value is subjective, independent of the customer. But we have many different customers in construction projects, right? We basically in Lean consider everybody who is sort of in any way, shape, or form affected by the project to be a customer. And of course, all these customers will have interests that are at odds with each other. So in the literature, we found very little on how do you actually prioritize between different customer groups and what are the ethical implications of it. So that is what we wanted to look into. So this is based on a preliminary work. So what we're looking at here are just trying to develop a theoretical framework to actually create the studies to analyze this. So first of all, it's important to distinguish ethical and lawful. They are often conflated, but they're not the same. So Robin Hood is an example of this. He stole from the rich, which was illegal, but it was considered ethically laudable among his group. Ethics can also be said, you can distinguish normative ethics and descriptive ethics, right? So normative tells you what's ethical or not. Descriptive rather analyzes the judgment the outlines people based on using the language or the coloring palette of ethics. So we think the latter is a more sane approach. We don't want to go into the construction industry and say, yeah, what you're doing there is ethical, this is unethical, but rather see what is perceived as unethical and ethical by practitioners themselves. And also value, I think it's important to distinguish between value and values in plural. I mean, in literature, this is basically mainly how they're divided. In some authors would use values as plural of what's value, but value is the resultant value that we judge what we consider to be a product. The values, well, are concepts or beliefs, what desirable states or outcomes that transcend specific situations, guide selection or evaluation of behavior and events, and are ordered by relative importance. So this basically, which is important in this context because it decides what we consider to be ethical or unethical. Furthermore, I mean, I could speak a lot about definitions of value, but here I'm going to use a rather simple one. In general, value is considered to be the relationship between what you get and what you give. This is often shown as a fraction, you can show it mathematically as cost or benefit or cost. I think this context is better like this. Value is get minus give, because this opens up for the idea of negative value, which if you consider projects and all the customers, some customers might be negatively affected by a project but have nothing to gain. In that sense, negative value is a valid use of it. Furthermore, something this is based on the previous or something, but true and perceived value. So perceived value is the value of something for the perceiver based on the knowledge and the values, while true value would be the value that they would perceive if they had perfect knowledge. This is the idea of value alignment and misalignment. So that value alignment is if you increase the value for party A, and this will also increase the value for party B, you have value alignment. However, the situation where increasing the value for party A will decrease the value for party B is value misalignment. And we also introduce these terms basically to describe the degree of alignment. Negligible would be increasing the value for A doesn't really impact B in any sense. Weak would be increasing the value for A, has a slight effect in B, or positive or negative, and so on. An ethical dilemma, or moral dilemma as I also refer to, is a situation where at least two mutually exclusive actions have a clear moral rationale for them, or simply is no answer at all. So this is not, choosing between good and bad. They're not really choosing between two evils. You're choosing between different customer groups. You have to prioritize them, but they won't go to what you do. And we basically have hypothesized that we hypothesize that in construction projects, ethical dilemmas will arise for the project delivery organization and the people working it whenever a non-negligible misalignment happens. So, as I said, this is a like preliminary research. We haven't really done any empirical gathering. We have ours sketched out a couple of scenarios in the paper based on our experience of talking to people over the years. So one of this, what we're talking about, would be the good of the client versus the good of wider society. So, for instance, this is a situation where the contract between the client and wider society, laws, regulations, etc., does not ensure value alignment. So, for example, would be the client wants to build a massive buildings that negatively affect the city environment, for example, blocking sight lines or blocking the effect of pedestrian traffic, etc. So this is a building. It's a hotel from Trondheim. It's been very criticized for having very blocking effects towards the fjord. They got to build it, but I have no idea if they are people working on it. Because it just an ethical dilemma, but it's that kind of problems we're talking about. Another could be the good of the developer versus the good of the buyer. So in a housing project, increasing the value for the developer will basically be about reducing the cost to deliver the project while maximizing the price achieved and so forth. Of course, this could possibly be done in a way that would affect the value for the buyer, lowering it, without him being able to perceive it. Right? He doesn't have sufficient knowledge, domain knowledge. So the maintenance cost, for instance, could be a lot in the long run, which reduces the true value for the customer, but he doesn't have domain knowledge to sense it, so the perceived value is wrong. However, the people working on the project, architects, engineers, will know this, and they might experience this as a difficult situation. So basically, what we want to answer furthermore, based on this framework and doing empirical studies, is what value misalignments are experienced in practice and how frequent they are experienced. Do designers and constructors experience ethical dilemmas to these misalignments? Because they might not. I have no idea. They might just say, their values might dictate that no, the overall is private as the client, there's no conflict. And how are these situations handled by designers and constructors? So two extremes would be to be blindly loyal to the client, or you might go behind the client's back and just optimize so it's fair for all groups without telling them. So how do people act? And what I think this is important is we'll say something about what conversations do we need to have in our projects. What do we need to discuss? So this is, we know that people will respect decisions they don't agree with as long as they can voice their opinion. So yeah. Okay.